Welcome to another video from McFatter Tech Musser. If you like these videos, please click subscribe. Windows Server Update Services in depth. This will be an extension to our 70-741 Lab 18, where we looked at installing Windows Server Update Services. But we didn't really go in a lot of detail. We set it up and we told it to download some updates and we configured a group policy, but we never really put it in action. So let's do that. I'm going to run through the installation again for those that may not have seen that instructional video. Here I've got a Windows Server 2016 machine, aptly named WSUS. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the Windows Server Update Services role. It's a role, not a feature. So we're going to scroll to the bottom of our list. We're going to select it. We're going to add our remote server administration tools. That'll give us our GUI management. We click next. We're going to click next, next. Now we're going to use the Windows internal database on this server. I don't have a dedicated SQL server. Otherwise, I would select SQL Server connectivity and connect to that instead. If you're in production, that would be the way to go because it gives you a lot better ability to maintain that database. We're just going to do the WID connectivity. We're going to do next. We need to have a path to store our updates. So on this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the C drive and I'm going to create a new update folder. And it's going to be aptly named Updates. We'll go ahead and close File Explorer and put that path in here. We'll click Next. Next, we're going to accept those role services. That's all we need to do for WSUS and install. So while that's installing, let's talk about how we get our computers to connect to WSUS. Well, there's a lot. You can do it through manual registry entries on every computer, but the easiest, best, most efficient way to do it is through group policies. Group policies allow you to decide what computers connect, how they connect, when they connect, do they get the updates, do they automatically download those updates, or they simply notify you, how all that works. So what I've done is on my domain controller, I created two new organizational units, one named London Computers and one named London Member Servers. I moved my member servers all into London Member Servers. I've got in London Computers a computer called WinDev 2005 Eval. This is a Windows 10 dev machine. So if we look in this, we can see that, for example, OneDrive Office is there to install, OneNote, we've got Visual Studio in there. There's a bunch of development tools that are already built into this. This is a free download from Microsoft. However, it is an eval, but it comes bundled with a number, for example, Blend for Visual Studio 2019. It gives you a chance to have a free development platform for a short period of time. This one was built about 45 days ago, and it's only good for another 45 days, but it'll suit our purpose. So that's what that is. So my goal is, if it's a Windows 10 machine and I authorize an update on my Windows Server Update Services, I want that to download to that Windows 10 machine and maybe automatically install it. Maybe prompt the user to install it. Depends on my environment. If it's a member server, a Windows server, I don't necessarily want that to download updates automatically. I may want to have it notify and say, hey, there are updates available to be downloaded. And then whoever's in charge of doing that patch management, they schedule when they're going to do those updates to those particular member servers. So let's take a look in group policy. We can see those same organizational units reflected here. So what about your domain controller? That needs to be the same, it needs to be updated as well, right? So we're going to start with our London Computers. I'm going to right click on that and say create a GPO in this and link it here. We're going to call it aptly London Computers. Oops. We're going to go expand the caret on that, and we're going to right click and we're going to modify that edit. Let's maximize the editor window, and I'm going to move our divider over a little bit. So I'm going to expand policies, administrative templates, Windows components, and we're going to scroll all the way down to Windows Update. I'm going to sort by name. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to allow automatic updates immediate installation, and I'm going to say enabled. This is for our desktop computers, right? If we authorize an update, it should get installed. Remember, the user's not authorizing it, you the administrator are. We're going to click OK, it's enabled. Now, we want non-administrators to be able to get those update notifications, so we're going to enable that as well. And we'll click OK. What about the automatic updates detection frequency? How often do we want them to poll for updates? Well, I'm going to say, you know what? Depending on the criticality, maybe we need to poll every hour. What happens if something critical is released and we want to authorize a hot fix, an update, a critical update, whatever it might be, and have the computers find out about it right away? Well, 1 hour is the shortest interval we can select, so we'll select that. Now, what about configuring automatic updates? There's a couple different settings in there. When we look in here, you can see that we're going to enable it, and now these different update methods are available to us. See if we can make this a little bit larger. Now, I encourage you to go ahead and read through these. Notify before downloading. The default is 3. Download the updates automatically and notify when they're ready to be installed. There's also automatic download the updates and install them on a schedule. So we could have it automatically download the updates. We may have a trigger, say every morning at 5 a.m. to have the computers automatically get started. And at 5:30, whatever the schedule might be, to automatically install any pending updates. Well, that would take the user out of the equation, right? So there's different ways to do this. There's also a 5 where we allow local administrators to select the configuration mode. So that's not supported on Windows 10. That was up before that. I mean, personally, I don't think that's a very good option myself. We're going to select automatically download and schedule the install. And then we're going to say every day, and we're going to leave this 3 a.m. selected. Now, we can go down here. There's additional things. We can say every week. We could say the first week of the month, second week of the month. You can limit it to only the second week of the month. We're going to allow it to stay being every week. And additionally, I'm going to also check off install updates for other Microsoft products and click OK. The next thing we're going to do is configure the auto restart reminder notification, and that's right here. We're going to enable that, and what we're going to do is we're going to specify the notification for a reminder every 4 hours and the imminent warnings for every 15 minutes. This way the user is going to get prompted if they haven't restarted. Now, we're also going to do the required notification. We're going to enable that. Now, there's a couple different ways. Specify the method by which the auto restart required notification is dismissed. Can it be automatically dismissed after 25 seconds? Well, what if the user's not looking at the screen at that particular time? If they stepped away for break or whatever it might be. We're going to select user action. This way the notification is there until the user dismisses it. We click OK. Next, let's take a look at the Do Not Adjust Default option to install updates and shut down. If we enable this, the shutdown option on the next shutdown will be whatever the previous was. So the user may not see install updates and shut down. This might be desired. For example, you may want users to have the ability to shut down without installing the updates. Maybe, I don't know. This would give you that ability. By not configuring it, they will be prompted install updates and shut down. Next, let's take a look at enabling Windows Update Power Management to automatically wake the system up. That might be good. We're going to enable that. That way, we could have the systems automatically be waked up to install their updates. Next is the reschedule of automatic updates scheduled installations. This is the amount of time for automatic updates to wait following a system startup before proceeding with a scheduled installation that was previously missed. See, you as the administrator on WSUS, you have the ability not only to authorize an update for installation, but to schedule when it has to be installed by. So were you to authorize an update and say it has to be scheduled by midnight on Tuesday, when the user comes in on Wednesday and turns the computer on, it would see that as a missed scheduled update and automatically proceed with it after this period of time. We're going to go ahead and we're going to set that for 1 minute and click OK. Okay, we still have a couple more settings that we need to configure. Real important one was we need to determine where our systems get their updates from. In our case, that's going to be http://lun-wsus with a :8530. We're going to copy that and I'm going to put that in for this statistics server as well. We will now go ahead and click OK. We're also going to turn on recommended updates. This way it's not just those critical updates, but we'll get not only the important but recommended as well. That's all we're going to configure right here. There's some other settings here that can be configured. For this, we're not going to do any others. That's going to be for our computers. That is the default policy for computers now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to configure the same policy for London member servers. In fact, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to expand Group Policy Objects. I'm going to right-click on London Computers and I'm going to say Copy. And then I'm going to right-click on Group Policy Objects and paste. We're going to use the default permissions. We're going to click OK, and now I'm going to rename this. And I'm going to rename it London Member Servers. I'm going to link that to member servers. And I'm going to edit it. And we're going to make just a minor change to it. We're going to go Policies, Automatic Templates, Windows Components, down to Windows Updates. And what we're going to do, the only change that we're going to make is we're going to change the Configure Automatic Updates. And I'm going to select Notify for download and auto install. What this will do is when Windows finds any updates, we'll get a notification that there's updates to be downloaded. So you as the administrator will be able to determine when you want to log on or go to those member servers and initiate the download and installation. This is beneficial so that you can prove those updates in a lab environment first, knowing that you're not going to cause any critical errors with your production servers before deploying that update to them. We're going to go ahead and click OK. And so now we can close our editor. We're going to right click on that London member server group policy object. I'm going to copy. I'm going to right click Group Policy Objects and select Paste. Click OK. Click OK. And now this one, I'm going to rename it London Domain Controllers. and I'm going to link that to the domain controller's object. So now our domain controllers can be updated, but only when we initiate the download. If we look in our ADUC Active Directory, these computers will have the associated group policy applied to it. The Windows 10 will have its policy applied to it, and the domain controller will have its policy applied to it. One thing we did not do. Let's go into our London domain controller policy. I forgot this step. Real important. Get back in there. We're going to go down to Windows Update. What is the name of the target side? Enable client-side targeting. And we're going to call this London servers, because we're going to give the same group for our domain controllers and our member servers. We're going to close that. I'm going to right-click the member servers and I'm going to make that same change there. On the London computers, we're going to right-click, we're going to edit. We're going to go Policies, Admin Templates, Windows Components, Windows Update. We're going to sort. We're going to do our client-side targeting, and this we're going to call London Computers. And we're going to click OK and close. Now, in our WSUS, we need to make those same setups once we're done with our configuration. All we did was install it. We're going to close our installation wizard. We're going to go Tools, Windows Server Update Services. Where we're going to store the updates, yep, it's already there. We're going to run, we're going to install this. I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to pause the video while it's proceeding. Only took about 30 seconds, but we're done with that. Now we can work on our actual configuration. So close in a moment, and our WSUS configuration should open up. Here we are. We're going to go Next. Nope, I'm not going to participate in the improvement program. We are going to synchronize from Microsoft Update. We don't have a proxy server. We're going to start connecting. Now, this is probably going to take 5 or more minutes. It's going to download the types of updates that are available. It's going to download and tell us what type of products can be updated. And it's also going to give us a choice of languages. But at the same time that it's doing this, it's creating our SQL instance. It's creating our SQL database. So this takes some time. So while this continues on, I'm going to pause the video. I'll be back once it's done. See you in a few minutes. Okay, and we have finished the connection to our upstream Microsoft Update. We're going to click Next. And now we're presented with our language. In our case, we're simply going to use English. We're going to click Next. On our products here, you can see all the various items that you can download updates for. We're going to select All and then All once more, and that will deselect everything. We're going to go down and we're going to begin. We're going to select Windows Server 2016. We're also going to go to Windows 10. In fact, what we're going to do is we're also going to select 1903 and later upgrade and servicing drivers. I'm going to click Next, because those are the only 2 operating systems that we've got, Windows 10 and Windows 2016. We're going to allow security updates, upgrades, definition updates, and critical updates. That's enough for now. That'll be plenty. We're going to click Next. When do we want to synchronize? Well, if we're using this production, we want to synchronize automatically. And I'm going to say that we're going to synchronize, let's say 6 times per day. That's every 4 hours. We'll click Next. and we want to begin an initial synchronization. We'll click Next and Finish. Here's our WSUS console. If we select our server, we can see that initial synchronization starting. We want to click on our computers and we're going to expand it, and then we're going to right click on all computers and we're going to say Add Computer Group. Now, do you remember the name of the groups that we defined? It was servers, and what was the other one? London Computers. So we're going to add a computer group there, and we're going to name it London Computers. Now you're going to see this server start to respond kind of slow because it's doing that synchronization, and all that information that's being downloaded is being added to that database. So as that database goes on, it pulls the performance of this system down. We're going to click Add. It's going to take a moment, and there it is. So we've got our computer groups. Let's go over to our dev machine, and first off, let's take a look at this machine. We can see that we did in fact get an IP address from the network. What we're going to do is we're going to run a couple different types of group policy updates. If we jump back over here to the DC1, we have a sub OU on our domain. We can right click on that and say Group Policy Update. It sees that there's one computer in there and say yes. Now if everything works the way it should, we should get a notification. There it is. Okay, remote procedure call was unsuccessful. I'm almost going to guarantee that that's what that error is. And I remember that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to close that. Let's go ahead. That's because we haven't updated group policies on this. So we're going to do GP update /force. Press enter. We're going to, while that's loading up, I'm going to jump over on our HyperV manager. Okay, there it updated. I'm going to go ahead and on server 3, which is also still running, that's where I did WSUS in the lab. One, I want to clean that up and get rid of WSUS installation on that. But we're also going to let this get group policy updates from that server. So I'm going to go in, manage, remove roles and features. Oops, got to wait for it to finish. Yep, got ahead of myself there. Next, next. Windows Server, update services. We're also going to get rid of that WID. We're going to click next, next, and remove. While that's doing that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to open up PowerShell, and I'm going to tell it to do a group policy update as well. Should take just a few moments, and then we're going to take a look at a resultant set of policy, an RSOP. Okay, so type in rsop.msc, resultant set of policy. This tells us what is being applied to this computer. Should finish here in just a moment. There we are. We can right click on computer configuration and look at properties. This shows right there is that London member server policy being applied. Excellent. If we expand administrative templates, Windows components, there's our Windows update settings. That's what resultant set of policy does for you. If you run this as a standard user, you will only see the user configuration because you don't have access to the computer configuration. Just a side note. Let's go ahead and we're going to, okay, restart pending, so we're going to need to restart this. Let's go to local server, and now if we see right here, check for updates only using a managed updating service. This used to say not to ever check for updates. Now there's probably no updates available yet, so we're going to leave that go. We're going to go ahead and we're going to restart this. While that's restarting, let's go back over to our Windows 10 machine. Let's take a look at that RSOP there. We'll right click, computer configuration. There's our London. Excellent. Okay, we're going to say no. Now what I want to do is we're going to type in Windows Update. Let's take a look at those settings. Updates are ready to download. View configured, some settings are managed by your organization. View configured update policies. Now those updates that we see there, I bet you were downloaded before we got this update. Almost guaranteed. Because we didn't authorize any updates yet, right? They haven't even been downloaded yet. Our policy says to automatically download them. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close that. And I'm going to tell this system to restart. Let's jump back over to our WSUS and take a look at our synchronization process. We're only 32% of the way. If we look at all updates, there's only 227 that have been downloaded so far. Some of those may not even be applicable for our systems. So we're going to let this roll a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause our video while we let the initial synchronization finish. Once we get to 100% where we've got some things to work with, I'll come back and we're going to show you how you go about managing this. So right now we've got our member servers and our domain controller ready to get updates as we authorize them and installed on a schedule that we define, and our desktop computers set on a schedule to automatically get updates and have them ready for installation. So I'll be back here in just well, from your perspective, in a second, but it may be another 20 or 30 minutes on my time. See you in a few. Okay, so I'm going to break in here. We're still only 50% of the way through our initial synchronization, but what I wanted to show you was one of our computers has reported in. And if we go here, we can see it, but it says unassigned. Why didn't it get assigned? Well, there's one other component to having those computers automatically get into their groups. You have to go into options, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go in to computers. You can specify how to assign computers to groups. So we're going to select that. And in here, we're going to say use group policy or registry settings on the computers. Now, we can't save this because of that initial synchronization. So once we're done, we got to go in there, but you need to set that. I should have done that before I started that initial synchronization, but this is something that you don't normally do until afterwards. Just got to remember we got to do that when we're done. Well, oh, we gained a whole percent. It's going to be a while. I'll be back in a while. For you, it'll just be moments. See you in a few. Okay, well, that took a while. Well, not for you, but for me it did. We're done with our initial synchronization. So what I'm going to do, the very first thing is we're going to go to computers. We're going to select that unassigned computers, and we're going to see which one that is. We're going to change failed or needed to any and refresh. Okay, so it's our server 3, our member server. Let's change the membership. I right clicked on it and we're going to move it to servers. And there it's gone. It's now in our servers container. Now let's go ahead and go into that options, computers, and we're going to say use group policies. We'll click OK. Now let's take a look at these updates. Right now all we can see is we've got some security updates, we've got some critical updates, but you know what? We have no idea what categories they fall into. Let's go back into our options under those products and classifications. So under classifications, we are getting critical updates, definition updates, security updates, and upgrades. Well, I only see critical and security over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here, select updates. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say new update view. And the view is going to be updates. And I'm going to say there's for a specific classification. I'm going to click on where it says any classification. We're going to unselect all. And then I'm going to select updates and click OK. And OK once more. There are no updates in there, but eventually there may be. What about if I've got updates for Windows 10? How do I know which ones are for Windows 10 or not? It'd be nice to be able to see that. And what about for my Windows Server? Let's create two new update views for that. We're going to say for a specific product, and we're going to select Windows 10. Click OK, and we're going to name it Windows 10. And click OK. Now we can, hey, we've got a view. Let's do the server also. New update view. We'll call it Windows Server 2016. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to call it Server 2016. Make the name a little bit shorter. And for that product, there we are. We click OK and OK. Hey, now we're starting to get some information we can work with. Now we can kind of figure out how we want to manage things. Okay, your view has changed a little bit. I had paused the video. What I realized was I had added an update view for updates. Well, we're not synchronizing updates, we're synchronizing upgrades. So there we are. There's the upgrades that are on there. So let's take a look here. We've continued to download updates, so we've got some more updates that are shown. There's some that are with no status. There's many that show that they're either installed or not applicable. We're starting to get a view that we can work with. This is the information we need, right? Well, what about our computers? Well, in the meantime, we had a couple computers report in. Our Windows 10 computer has reported in, and I logged into it over here and did a report now to update its view. So remember when we saw that there was updates to be installed? Well, I installed them. It required a restart. It polled, it updated its status on our WSUS server. It hadn't been showing up there before. What's this one unassigned? Our DC1. I know why that is. Remember when I copied and created the new group policy object? What was the target group that I set for that? London DCs. I didn't make a London DCs target group on my WSUS. You know what? I'm not going to do that. We want to be able to manually determine when we install those updates on our DC, just like a member server. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into group policy management. I'm simply going to rename that London member servers to London servers. And then I'm going to unlink the group policy object that I made for my domain controllers, and I'll just link London servers, and that'll have the correct target group of servers. And then on its next group policy update and polling, it should automatically move itself into that server container, and we'll be good to go. Let's take a look at some of these updates that we've got. If we look here, we can see we've got 120 updates shown. Are they approved? They're not approved, right? None of these are approved. None of them are. How do we know that they're not necessary? How do we know whether they're relevant or not? I'm going to right click on the title bar and I'm going to select supersedence. I'm also going to right click and I'm going to select needed count. This tells me how many computers require this update. This tells me whether it's been superseded or not. I'm going to click on that little supersedence icon. And now we can see there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 updates that are top level. See that little bluish icon on this little icon tree? That means it supersedes other updates. Let's click on this first one, and I'm going to move this description down here make it a little bit larger, right here. This update supersedes another update. Before you decline any superseded update, we recommend you verify it's no longer needed by any computers. You do that by approving this update first. So we can see here that there is this .NET Framework update that's no longer required because this update supersedes it. It was the cumulative update from September of 2019, and it superseded the July of 2019's cumulative update. This update we could decline. This is still relevant. At some time in the future, maybe it gets superseded. Who knows? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Let's move this back down a little bit. The bottom line is, if we scroll down here, we can see updates that have the little blue icon in the middle of the three, and what it means is these updates supersede updates and have also been superseded by other updates. In fact, here's probably that update that got superseded by the 09 one. And it did. And it superseded one from May of 2019. This update, we can be confident in our ability to decline this because we already saw that there is an update right here that supersedes it. So we can simply click decline and say, yes, we do. And now, if we refresh, it is now removed from our view. We no longer can approve an update that's been superseded and would simply have to be replaced by another update. Manage the updates that you have here. Be very careful that you do not decline a superseded update without knowing that the update that supersedes it is available. If it's not available for some reason and you decline that superseded update, you will be creating a security vulnerability because that update will never get installed. If we continue down that list, we can see that there's many updates that have been superseded. So as you go through your maintenance, as you go through your verification process, most of these are all going to disappear from your view. Now, see this final supersedence icon. The blue highlight is at the bottom. This means that something supersedes it. It supersedes nothing. If we look down here, we can see that, in fact, there were 5 consecutive updates that replaced this update. So here again, we can be confident in our ability to decline one of these updates. Let's move this window up a little bit so we can see a little bit more. And here again, I'm going to move that view. We look here, we can say, yes, there are many updates. In fact, almost every month there's been an update that superseded this. We can decline it. And you'll get more and more familiar with those updates. Same thing here. Each cumulative update for Windows 2016 has been replacing this. Well, we've been getting those updates now, right? So we're going to decline. And click yes. What about this update for Windows Server 2016? Well, looks like on a pretty regular basis it gets replaced. I'm going to decline it. I'd want to do my legwork. And you know what? Just because I'm not completely sure. Well, maybe I am. Let's look here. 2017 November. Update for 2016, 1709, same version. This was July of 2018. Well, right here, is that same update? Yes, it is. I can decline this. Make sure you know that what you're declining does have a newer update that is available to be approved for it to be installed. How do you go about doing that approval process? Well, you select an update. You can either right click on it, or if you're selecting multiple by holding the control button, you select approve and you select the group that it's approved for. Now there'd be no point in me approving this for London Computers. I could do here and I could say approved for install, and it will approve it for install in all my groups. Well, there's no real point to that, is there? It's a server update. I don't have any servers in London Computers. So I'll select servers and I'll do approve for install. Now, let me show you. You don't have to use your mouse. Here I do, I have to click approve, but I can press the letter S, it highlights it, and I can hit Control I for install and press enter. And that update is now approved for install. This is how we approve those updates. What about definition updates? We're downloading definition updates. Let's add that view. Classification, definition updates, and we're going to call it definition updates. We'll click OK. You know what? I'm going to make sure my typing is correct. Remember, once you create these views, you cannot change them. You have to delete the view and then create a new view. We'll click OK. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to the top level to updates. And now we've not gotten any definition updates. Simply may not have gotten them. However, if we've got definition updates that are coming in, those are kind of important to get approved right away. Do we want to wait until an administrator approves those? No. We're going to go to options. We're going to go to automatic approvals. I would never approve this automatic approval rule of all critical and security updates. Pretty heavy-handed. I'm going to create a new rule. I'm going to add a classification. Click, uncheck, select definition updates. We're going to call it def updates. And approve it for all computers. Let it decide. If it's a definition update, we want Windows Defender to get that, right? We click OK. It's checked off so it's active. We click OK. Now, when we start to get those definition updates, they will automatically get approved and distributed to our computers. What about knowing what activity has taken place? Well, we can log in and we can see the top level. We can see what's got to be approved. We can see what's going on. We can click on updates. Well, wouldn't it be good to know that ahead of time? We go back into options, into email notifications. You're going to define the email server that you use, and it better be requiring authentication. Make sure it's secure. You then define recipients to know when new updates have been synchronized. You can have multiple email addresses, just separate them by a comma. You can send daily or weekly status reports showing you the status, so that when you arrive at work in the morning, you've got a WSUS report waiting for you, telling you what computers have been updated, which ones need updates, which ones may have failed updates, all the things that you need to aid in your management. I hope you have found this of value. How we manage updates directly affects the security of our organization. It's one of the critical components in maintaining our asset inventory and knowing that our assets all have the same profile. If you like this video, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel. As I say in all my videos, I'll see you in the next lab or lesson. Have a great one.